Welcome to the Full FX Unfiltered video series. This episode is in association with FXSpotStream, and I'm delighted to be joined by Alan Schwarz, who's CEO of FXSpotStream, and Tom San Pietro, who's the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of FXSpotStream as well. Gentlemen, thanks for your time today. Alan, if I could start with you. You recently announced the launch of algos on FXSpotStream. What was the thinking behind the launch, and what are you trying to achieve with it?
Colin, good to see you as always. Hopefully you're staying well and healthy in Australia. About 2 or 3 years ago, as we were looking at our business, and we've been fortunate it continues to grow, we said to ourselves, where is the next thing for us? And where is there a pain point when you look at manual, i.e. GUI versus API? And we said algos. Now, when we first talked about it, our liquidity providers, our clients said to us, it's all done via GUI. We know that your strength is in the API, but it's just not going to really get traction. Fast forward 2+ years, and Tom and his team spent 18 months plus working on this. A couple months ago, we launched algos on an API. It's been incredibly successful. And what we found out is that, in fact, market participants are looking, no surprise, for a more efficient way to do business with the banks. Algos generally, clients are looking for better price and execution. Obviously, they want to limit their risk, and they're looking for deeper pools of liquidity, which is what bank algos offer. Now, doing what we've done isn't easy. It takes a lot of work, conversation, thinking to take 14 disparate APIs and put them down one and normalize that, which is what we do. For a client to do what we've done, there's just a lot more work than they'd like to do, in particular, since we have every single algo type, and a client's not going to access every single algo type. So for them to write to 14 APIs and only use one algo, it's the cost benefit just doesn't make any sense. So we went down that path, and admittedly, and we'd like not to rely on a bad thing to be a good thing, but the pandemic has helped us. Why? Because the last 18 plus months, people have been working from home. The ability for people to have resiliency, working from home with an internet connection versus working from home with beefy lines, has become a compliance issue, has become a risk issue, has become a control issue. So now we're able to take that unfortunate event, and without a doubt, it's helped us tremendously, because clients are saying, not only do you help me with all those things, but by the way, for the last 9+ months, I've had to put a lot of things on hold. Now I need to play catch up. And now I need to worry about compliance, regulatory risk, business opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been fortunate. You've been covering us for 10 years. We're approaching a decade now. And we've been fortunate that, timing is everything. And our timing on this feels spot on. So bottom line, Colin, is API is our strength. Normalizing all these algos is something that we've done. We're the only offering right now out there with every single bank algo, and Tom will talk a little bit more about that. But it's an opportunity that plays right into what we do, and it's going very well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, from my perspective, you talk to people on the buy side, and the algos seem to have come of age. So I would certainly agree with you there. I think also they've kind of proven themselves, which I think there was. I wouldn't call it skepticism over the benefits of algos, but I think there wasn't enough of a compelling argument maybe in the past for them to actually go. And the last 18 months has really provided that. So Tom, a big thing about algos is workflow. So what workflow benefits are you guys offering?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at what we traditionally do, right? We We let you give us, you get a single network connection to us. We wire you up with 15, 16 liquidity providers. We normalize their interfaces, and we spend all our time just trying to stay out of the way, minimize the amount of latency that we introduce by being in the middle, right? Algos, slightly different problem, right? There's still great benefit to that single connection, but the interfaces are very inconsistent. The products are much less standardized, right? So, the value proposition, and no one really cares, right? If it takes a second for the order to get to the bank, no one's really bothered, right? But when you look at the interfaces, they're very inconsistent. They're very different, right? They're all really proprietary, right? And the instruments are much more complicated, right? So the amount of effort, I think Alan alluded to it, the amount of effort that it would take for a client to say, hey, I'm going to do bank A, B, and C. I'm going to integrate with their algos. I think, we spoke to a number of clients as this product came online that were sitting there looking at those interfaces and not sure how to move forward.
Yeah.
So we've put a great deal of effort, into, hey, how do we take these interfaces, normalize them in a logical, consistent, modern way, right? Offer everything that they offer, right? Because we don't want the client to have to choose between, hey, I'm going to use this bank's algos, but I can only use a subset of what they offer because I'm using this SpotStream thing, right? So we put a lot of effort into making sure that we didn't ask clients to make that compromise, and we didn't frustrate, the bank salespeople when they go in to sell their latest and greatest optionality, only to find out that, oh no, I'm on SpotStream. So we think we've done a good job of essentially offering a superset of functionality. As Alan said, all the banks with all their algos, with all their optionality, the stuff that we could standardize and normalize and make easy, we did. The stuff that's kind of proprietary and unique, well, the client just has to figure out how they want to access it, but they can access it through our interfaces, right? And so I think the big benefit we had there was simplify the challenge in being able to talk to multiple banks using their proprietary algorithms over a standardized interface over a single network. So that's really, I think, the value that we've added there.
And one of the things that Tom mentioned, and not to be underestimated, we've purposely chosen to give clients the best possible option. What do I mean by that? Others have said we're going to pick the three most popular ones: VWAP, TWAP, fixing, which makes sense. I mean, it makes sense because you want to, look at the opportunity and then look at the resources, cost, and all that good stuff. We've taken a little bit of a different approach, and we said, as with everything else, and we're a disclosed bilateral service. You decide who to deal with. You decide when to deal with. The bank decides when to execute. We're basically a technology company passing messages back and forth. And so, consistent with that thinking, our approach was, we're not going to tell the client, we're not going to tell the bank what you can and cannot do. We're going to give you every possible option. So we have over 70 different algo types with over 200 plus parameters. Now, Tom and I debated this a lot and said, do we really want to do that? And Tom's, and I'm like, And at the end of the day, we made the right choice because we've had already one client that said, I only want this bank and I only want this algo, right? If we had made the decision of going after the 70% of where the concentration is, and there's an 80-20 rule, we would lose that business. Ultimately, we will be proven correctly that even though there's going to be a maintenance cost and all that good stuff, the banks and the clients will say, once again, I can do all my business over this channel. And that is super valuable, even if we take a little bit of extra pain in making that the offering.
I think the other point as well to make, though, is that, I think as people have become more used to algos, they've understood the variety and the sort of flexibility of the different strategies. Everybody went very, very hot on passive algos last March, in March 2020, when, the market was a bit crazy, it was random volatility. But there are times when actually you want to be, more directional. You want to be more positive in the market. And it strikes me that you can't really offer that to clients unless you're offering them everything that's out there.
Correct. And
providers take different approaches. Some providers, and I think it's all, like anything else, it's all coming, to the same place, but some providers have a lot of algos. Other providers have said, you know what, I'm just going to give you 4, right?
Yeah.
And that way we don't have to get crazy about this does this and that. But clients do have different needs, and so if you, it's a little bit of a mix, right? If you give them too much, then it's all over the place. If you don't give them enough, then you don't get the traction. So you just have to find a balance. But that is really from the algo provider perspective, right? For us, we don't know and we can't choose, and so we give everybody everything, and we've just been very surprised by the choice that client, and also, Colin, very surprised by who's doing the algos, right? We thought, it's going to be real money, it's going to be some hedge funds, etc. We have some clients, existing clients, that are using algos that we had no idea that it would be appealing to them. And so you just don't know. So at the end of the day, we might have spent a little bit more time, a little bit more money, but the result is, the best of all worlds for the clients and the banks, to be honest. And if we had said to the banks, we're only going to support 3 of your algos, they'd say, yeah, okay, then I'm not interested. And so they're super happy because everything they have, we have, and everything the client wants, we have. So it's a win-win.
And I think, these shops that surprised us as well, we're probably, these are not shops that pay people to sit in front of screens and trade, right? They're automated, algo-based, trading shops themselves. And I think they were probably hearing, all the banks were sort of telling them like, yeah, there's GUIs, use the GUI, and they don't want a GUI. They don't have people sit in front of GUIs. And when you look at the interfaces, you can almost tell when the bank started to have an algo suite by looking at the interface and the style of how they've done it. You can see, oh, this must have been first generation, and you can see the later generations much cleaner. The Fix org has done some things to make it easier to support algos in their standardized messaging. You can see the banks that have come later have taken advantage of that. The ones that started early have a lot of proprietary things. So I think when we showed up, those automated shops were like, oh, thank goodness, now we can do algos. And nobody realized they wanted to do them. They just didn't have a good mechanism to do them, because no one was offering the type of service we offer in streaming on algos. So we've been pleasantly surprised at the reaction from some of those shops to this interface.
Are you still finding that some strategies are actually more popular? And you've got a lot of strategies on the platform being offered.
Well, I think, but I think there's a reason for that, right? First, it's new, it's a new interface, right? So they're going to start with, and the people that are integrating with us are generally, I don't know if they're doing some algos, but I think they're generally just starting up accessing algos. So they're starting with the basic things, right? It makes sense, right? They're going to do a TWAP, they're going to do a VWAP. A lot of interest in fixings also makes sense. A lot of fixing orders getting left through the interface, right? But then, once they get through that, then to your point earlier, there are these algos out there. They're more complicated, so I think they don't start with them, that will adapt to market conditions in real time, right? They'll go from passive to aggressive, in real time. They'll just adjust, and there's a lot of other parameters that you need to think about when you're setting that up, right? The interface makes it easier, but you still have to understand the algos you're using, right? And so I think that slows down people accessing the more sophisticated things. They want to start with the standardized stuff and then progress to the more sophisticated. And that's kind of what we're seeing. And we have all of it, really. It's not an exaggeration. We literally support every bank that's offering their algo suite on our API. We support every algo they have, and you have access to every option they support.
That's quite a number. So, I mean, Alan, we've spoken about, I guess, the challenges in terms of, putting this number of algos via an API, but where do you sort of see the opportunities going forward? Because, as you say, we're 2-3 months into algos and FXSpotStream.
Yep.
How do you see it going forward from here? What do you think the opportunities are and the benefits?
Huge. And what do I say that? We're into it now 2 months. Already we hit a high of 300 million daily, right? Which is just like I mean, I look at my budget and I didn't have that, you always, go under, right? But, the volume opportunity is huge. It's an opportunity that we thought it's for really a new client. It was kind of like a client segment play, right? Let's try to, again, and remember, by the way, we haven't talked about it. We also launched allocations, pre and post allocations on the back of the algos. And so we said, this is and we're going to go there, right? Anybody who watches us, should understand that, we have a 5-10 year plan, et cetera. We're going down the allocation space, and it's going to take us some time, right? So we were thinking, you know what, real money, they need allocations, they use algos. That's kind of where we're going. But as often we're surprised, we are seeing more volume from our existing clients. So the benefit and opportunity is, we have a client who already is using us, they're going to use us more. And that's what we're seeing today. Second is clients that we don't see today, we're already engaging with a client that uses algos, that needs allocations, that is going to work with us because we don't have everything that you need in allocations. And that's going to be hugely beneficial to us, because now we're going to be able to get a client to say, okay, what do you need on the allocation side, right? We're building it. We'd like to build it with you. We'd like to support you, support us. So that's now the opportunity to start growing that part of the business with new client base and new functionality. And thirdly, huge benefit is we're going to be in the middle part of the migration from the GUI volume to the API, because that is going to happen, right? We're working with the banks as they themselves are maturing their API, right? So it's not like we're going to say, okay, 5 years from now, we're going to get into the API as they're when you go live, there's going to be, teething issues, et cetera. We are working with them on enhancing their API so we can support it better, right? And there's no better way to grow your product when you're part of that, of that mix, and with the client as well. And on the GUI, because we understand that it may not all happen as quickly as you'd like, although we're very surprised already, we will be launching a GUI with everything that's on the API on the GUI. That's going to come online in Q1, probably, Feb, a little bit later in Q1. And that's going to allow us, Colin, to then say to clients, listen, we get it. You're not an API shop, or you don't have resources, et cetera. Here's all the functionality. Play with it on the GUI. And when you're ready, we have the API. So it's not like we're going to be ignoring that client base. We're going to be able to interact with our client base, and then we're going to be part of that migration. So there's 3 or 4, pieces to the puzzle. And we're a really, really nice spot, we think, to capture that volume that already exists and is going to be migrating to the API.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately what you're talking about as a client journey.
Yep.
Yeah,
and a bank journey.
And we've seen it in different fields, and I'm quite convinced, as you clearly are, that it's going to happen in the algo field as well.
And it's going to happen as everything else. And again, the pandemic has accelerated it. But as many years ago, the transition from a voice to electronic in a product would take 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is, right? And there's other elements to that transition. More and more you see things going electronic in a much more compressed period of time, right? Something that would have ordinarily been, a year, 2 years, now it takes a year, 6 months, et cetera. The change in work culture and in resource allocation and all that from the pandemic, I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it was. There's going to be, some variations to that. And as a result of that, the need to have more electronic, more controls, more resiliency, et cetera, less resources, more resource constraint, et cetera, that's not going to go away. So the speed at which I think the algo is going to be adopted on an API has accelerated and will continue to accelerate. And we're smack in the middle of that. Yeah.
Great. Well, Alan, Tom, thank you very much for joining us on the Full FX Unfiltered in association with FXSpotStream in this episode. I wish you all the very best, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Soon,
Good
Colin.
to see you.
Take care.